Unknown caller.
Before I call the meeting to order, I have several comments that I'd like to make. Several of you have noticed that I have a badge on the left side of my temple. I can assure you it is not a political statement. Number two, it's not self-inflicted. And it was just a simple procedure, and I didn't do myself. You know, the worst thing is for the
Tool for a client, you're not allowed to.
No, taking over
physician to
myself.
be his own patient is a disaster. And the third thing, I just want to remind everybody that this is a recorded meeting. And so what I would like to do is, if you have questions or you want to add to the discussion, if you just allow me to recognize you, and then we can just kind of move in order and get everybody's view. That's just a simple thing. And so Kimberly's online, and welcome back, Kimberly.
Thank you, thank you.
So now I call the meeting to order, and Kevin is not here yet, but we'll either call in or we'll get him shortly. So I think I'll just wait and see if he comes before we make a meeting to vote to excuse him. Mr. Pat Breslin is signed up, and he's going to be able to present. So our usual process, just keep walking. Usual process is to give residents up to 3 minutes at time, and I know you're aware of that. We generally don't answer any questions or ask questions of you, but we will discuss this subsequently in the board meeting, probably executive session, and then get back to you. The timekeeper is Carl. So if you'd like to go ahead and start.
Very much. My topic is golf cart safety, in particular yielding. When I walk or ride my bike along our community paths, many golf carts do not yield. I addressed the board about this 2 years ago, and a lot of progress has been made, but we need to do more. We have many important safety issues with golf carts, but yielding is unique for 2 reasons. Number one, it requires golf cart drivers to do something that's not natural. Why? Because we don't do that in our cars. On a 2-way street in a car, we simply keep moving and stay on our lane. So it's natural for a golf cart driver to want to keep moving and stay on the concrete. Even though the concrete here is only 8 or 9 feet wide, it's not enough to allow the 3 feet clearance needed for safety. The second reason is that a violation is over and done in an instant, so it's very difficult to catch anyone. But on the 4th of July, I mounted this little video camera on my bicycle and rode along the community paths. 15 golf carts passed me, 5 did not yield. And the security department, after I filed a complaint, called the 4 that I identified and spoke to the 4 drivers. 2 of the 4 didn't know how to yield. This is our target group. If we can grab these people, get their attention, we can cut the problem in half. And so I'm here to recommend an active campaign to try to grab their attention any way we can. On TV screens, signs, email, social media, printed flyers, anything using pictures rather than words to send our message. For instance, I created this picture. What did I do wrong here? All right, again.
So Jessica, can you do forward on it for him, please?
That's a quick visual to visualize what's going on with the systems. And so for some other ideas, we could do this. Just one, please. Thank you. Take a picture of someone who's actually yielding the correct way and put out an attaboy. Maybe have the person's name if that person's given the permission. Or we could use famous people. You could just slowly go through.
Okay.
Christmas, that's a Christmas version. Okay, hold up, please. Maybe these images could be shown on a TV at the clubs. Maybe we could print them up and they can be given out as receipts at the golf car center when you have service. Or my favorite, in the clubs, in the men's room, we could post them over the urinals. Think outside the box. For Halloween, we could put up a real scarecrow along the path, have the scarecrow, hold a 3-foot yardstick with a sign, 3 feet for safety. Somewhere along the path, we could pick out a long stretch, paint 2 parallel lines with a message in the middle, 3 feet for safety. And then the last slide, maybe we could get our residents to put bumper stickers on their cars. I yield for pedestrians. I'm simply asking for a special effort on this aspect of golf cart safety because it really is important.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
We appreciate the article that you wrote for the twaddle.
Thank you very much. And on that topic, I printed copies of what I just gave you, and the twaddle article is there too. So I'll just leave it with.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
And Pat does sit on the communications committee and does a great job there.
Thank you very much for that. But I'm speaking on my own behalf today.
You are.
In case I get in trouble, we'll be the whole video right now.
Thanks, Bob.
Okay, so I'm going to move on to the consent agenda. And we had a few changes.
Lisa came in, did she have anything?
Lisa Olson, would you like to speak?
No, I know, I just came because I haven't come in a long time and I missed you guys.
Oh.
We just had like conflict, so no, I didn't, just like.
Okay, thank you. So we'll add Lisa to our list of members attending, but we had some just changes in who who was attending last month's meeting. And I think, Kimberly, you've made changes to
Yes.
those minutes. And so we can accept those now as corrected. So I need a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. And so that's approved. Now, report from the Landings Golf and Athletic Club, President Bob Hanley.
Good afternoon, everybody. At our board meeting on June 28th, the board approved 3 recommendations: an endorsement of a sustainability strategic plan focused on 3 areas: waste and recycling, energy, and water. We approved the recommendation for a selection of a local law firm, Ellis Painter, and they'll serve as a counsel for us on state and local legal issues. And we approved the capital allocation request of $124,000 for additional and replacement exercise equipment for the Wellness Center. We're continuing the planning process for an enhancement of our Franklin Creek campus. We've been going back and forth with our land planning architect over the last month or so, looking at different layouts for the pickleball courts. And we feel we're near a solution that will meet the needs of our members and our neighbors. Once the perimeter of the proposed plan is formalized, it will be submitted to Chatham County to secure the necessary permits to conduct the work, with the hopeful start of earth moving sometime this fall. At this time, we still have no firm cost estimates available. We're continuing the data collection process for our next capital plan, proposed for implementation in 2027. During the last week of June, 270 members participated in a total of 28 in-person and virtual focus group sessions to answer questions and voice their opinions on the future of our club's amenities. Our consultant is compiling those comments and will deliver them soon to our board for review. The next step will be to use the results of the focus group discussions and some research on industry trends to develop an all-member survey. The survey will be distributed to all members, not just one survey per membership, later this summer. Status of the club as far as memberships in June, we had 14 new total golf memberships combined with 15 new athletic memberships and 20 resignations, which produced a net gain of 9 memberships for the month. One thing I've learned in paying particular attention to our membership numbers is that the variations of losses and gains from month to month are really not a very good projection of membership trends. Often the join and resignation numbers are just a result of timing on the part of the member rather than concentrated efforts of our membership staff. Total memberships are budgeted to end at a level less than the level at the end of 23, and after 6 months, we stand at a net total of -7 memberships. In relation to our membership number forecast for the end of June, we have 19 more total golf memberships than budgeted and 11 less athletic memberships than we expected. The number of 96 resignations by the end of June closely matches our average annual amount of 200 resignations per year. For conservative budgeting purposes, we're still forecasting a net loss of around 16 total memberships by the year end. Full club equivalents, I've been reporting now since I was asked about me a couple months ago. We're now at a full club equivalent number of 2,032, which is above our budgeted number of 1,995. Food and beverage revenue for the month was slightly above budget, a trend that began in April after a slow start in the first quarter of the year. And right now our food and beverage revenue is right on budget for the year. Monthly transfer to capital is a good indicator of the validity of our budget estimates. Our transfer to capital exceeded budget estimates 5 out of 6 months this year. And that's a result of our food and beverage revenue getting back on track and revenue from dues above our estimates due to higher membership numbers than we expected. So this demonstrates how sensitive our financial stability is to our membership numbers and our members' engagement with our club, and why we work so hard to maintain or grow our membership levels while keeping a close eye on our members' ease of access to our amenities. As of June 30, our transfer to capital is at $2.1 million, about 6% above our budget. That's a good trend, and we hope that continues through 2024. That's the end of my report. Any questions?
Any questions? Okay, thank you very much. That's new, no questions.
They'll come sometime, right?
Wait till the end of the meeting, we'll have more. Okay, we're gonna move on to new business, general manager, staff reports and action items.
A few items to report on for the Live Oak fiber. Of course, as far as my understanding, they finished out for the residential part, but they're still running conduit right now for association and club facilities. Sean's going to be going out with them Friday morning to reconfirm and make sure they have everything set up. So still to come is to hook up our facilities, club facilities, and the 8 Wi-Fi nodes in the south end of the island to help cellular coverage. So that work's still going on. We learned, thanks to Bill, that AT&T is back out in the community in the Midpoint area. So Sean's reached back out to them to get more details on their fiber backbone that they're updating, so we can make sure we understand where they're going to be and that kind of stuff. So more digging continues in the community, just when you think you're done with everything, unfortunately. We got our quarterly stats from our smartphone app, and we now have household adoption is at 95%. So that means they've signed up for it, 95% of the households. An interesting note, they didn't list all the menus in order, but the most popular menu is frequently asked questions, so fantastic. And then amenities is number 2 on that one. So we can keep digging into some more numbers on that, but that was interesting to see that. Then some trainings coming up. The Reserve Subcommittee has a webinar tomorrow where we're looking at some reserves planning as we're starting to kick off the budgeting process. Jessica and I and Caden are attending a webinar later this week on building an award-winning budget book. So we'll see if we can breathe some fresh life into our 300-page monstrosity.
Award-winning.
Well, I'm not sure we're gonna get award-winning, but they said you can't just start posting, keep posting PDFs, like, oh, that's what we're doing. So we'll see. We do make the flip book option of it too, flipping pages, so we'll work on that. And then Karen and I are starting up tomorrow, certified plan sponsor professional training, which our 401k advisor is making available to us at no cost, so we can understand. She and I are the key contacts over here to understand the ins and outs a little bit better. So starting to do some training and education coming up. So I'm looking forward to it. I hope Karen's looking
I
forward
look
to it.
forward to it.
It's 9 weeks.
Finally.
It's 9 weeks though, that's the problem.
9 weeks. But we get more letters after our name, so.
Yeah, that's right. So anyway, that's some of the stuff that's going on. Does anybody have any questions on those or any other items? Yes.
If you recognize me.
Yes.
The AT&T, so they don't have to like let us know?
They do, and they let us know months ago, and then Sean reached out to say, hey, we need to get this information from you. And they kind of put a pause on everything, and then all of a sudden they started digging. So they did let us know. They didn't do it when they did, so Sean's reached back out and said, hey, wait a minute, you gotta fill these out. Sean, you want to?
Yeah, I did talk with their field manager today. He went back to their engineering department and said that they did receive approval. I asked for the company and who approved, and it was a company I've never heard of. But I said, that's great. You got approval from somebody that has no authority. And so they are submitting everything tomorrow, as soon as they get, or later this evening when they get back in the office. And then also having all the paperwork completed. We did have when they called in a large scale ticket for to start digging, we had kind of a heads up that it was getting ready to start. But typically that's followed up by the engineering department, reaches out, sends out a set of drawings, we review them, address any issues, and then put specifications together as far as like communications, expectations for cleanup, expectations if they damage common property.
Like with Atlanta Gas Light.
Exactly, and so that's where they misstepped, and so they are stepping back and gonna have all that submitted to us by tomorrow, is what they committed. Their
Speaking of
plans-
Atlanta Gas Light, what
Yeah, so Atlanta Gas Light is progressing. They are, if you can imagine, they've been since the beginning of July up at the four-way stop. They ran into a lot of challenges locating the old utilities or the existing utilities that are in place. And they've also found a lot of abandoned utilities that they've been tracing, trying to figure out if they're still active or not, like water lines. They traced 30 foot of 8-inch water main that was just something left in a trench, it appeared to be, because it wasn't connected to anything. So they're doing their due diligence, which is good. They're taking their time and preventing any kind of utility hits. But they are working. You can see they pulled everything on the McWhorter side or on the other side of Green Island on County Spur 204 coming back in all the way back to about halfway point of the main gate. And now they're going to be boring back under. They just put together and fused the line together to pull them back all the way to the other side of the main gate. So hopefully we only have that one connection point, if you will, that's kind of in the bedded area. We've been trying to, I've already sent them a pre-estimated proposal for what the grass replacement will cost. So they're being very careful not to leave things in the grass or to dig many potholes that aren't needed. So they're working very diligently. Biggest challenge obviously has been the lane closures as they're working through. That's been a little bit of a challenge, kind of confusing some people as they're going through, but for the most part, they've been doing a very good job of trying to get in and out as quickly as possible while still being safe.
It feels like a NASCAR road course.
You're going in and out, yeah. So,
Rosemary.
Yeah, I noticed, Carl, that there was a CAI course on political signs and, which I thought would be interesting. I was thinking about signing up for it, but then I thought, well, I'll see what you think about that.
Yeah, I mean, we've gotten some good advice from Georgia NOAC directly on that, and we continue to look at that. So that's why we haven't signed up for that particular one. We do have our Wednesday Wisdom going out next week, deals with political climates and signs and be a good neighbor and breeze differences, but also you can't put up signs. So, as we get into the season, it's gonna ramp up, obviously.
So you can have a sign in your car
You could have a sign in your car, and you can have one in your window.
and you can take one to your golf cart?
We don't have anything against having something on your car or on your golf cart. No.
I have a member who called in high dudgeon that there was somebody in the community riding around in a truck with a huge flag on it. And I said, well, unfortunately, you're allowed, it's his thing, but anyway, I just think we're going to see more of that. Or we will. Yeah,
We will.
thank you.
Yeah, of interest, Bob and I had a discussion about how we might work together, but the club is probably more concerned about behaviors and clothing and what kids wear and what adults wear in the pools and on the golf carts. Now, I don't know if the club could take some action. We have to think about this regarding golf carts and what you could put on golf carts while you're actually traversing the golf course. But, there's a bunch of carts that aren't golf course approved, so.
You don't have any specific regulations on golf cart signage similar to what you would have for vehicles.
Right.
We're working on a message that asks people to not do that, but there's not really any way we can enforce it. We're basically asking people to just respect others' space, in conversation and in attire, and including, signs on carts, bumper stickers and things like that. But there's only really the conversation and the attire is the only thing that we can actually enforce.
Okay, thanks.
All right, Jessica with the financial reports.
We are halfway through the year, more than halfway now. So we are looking at the numbers through the end of June for 2024. Total cash at the end of June equaled 8.013 million, and our total investments equaled 8.482. We had combined interest earnings of 43,226 in the month of June. Total operating revenue was 5.612 million, which is 267,000 more than our budget. And total operating expenses before depreciation was 5.799, which is 36,000 more than our budget. That places us with a net expense over revenue of 186,542, which is 231,000 better than our budget at the end of June. Some of those main drivers on the revenue side, architectural fee revenues performing better than budget, mainly due to the review fees. We're also seeing contractor forfeitures performing higher than what we expected in our budget. Vehicle registration performing better than budget. This is an increase in volume of annual vehicle registrations. Fuel sales, mainly due to gasoline. We've seen less than budget on diesel, but gasoline's overperforming for both of those categories. And in the other category, that's a combination of three accounts. We've seen higher than projected Comcast revenue, also EFT fees, which is what the monthly and quarterly payment plans for those enrolled that pay their assessments through a monthly or quarterly payment plan, and also, unfortunately, finance charges for those that have a past due balance. On our expense side, our tax category is performing better than budget. We did not have a federal tax liability that was required to be paid in 2024. Office supplies and small tools performing better than budget. This is mainly due to timing for some projects in public works versus what we placed in the budget. IT support's performing more than our budget, mainly due to an increase in cost and software renewals and also infrastructure upgrades. And our other category is mainly due to bad debt expense. We have one large non-assessment account that has been sent to litigation that has remained unpaid since November. Our capital reserve expenditures, as of the end of June, we have spent 2.366 out of the 4.9 million budget. 66% of that on roads, 14% on marinas, 12% on storm drain projects, 4% bridges, structures, and equipment, 3% community paths, and 1% on association capital, which is mainly 10 computers that we purchased for the association. This is the next two slides will show what we have completed in our capital reserves projects, either items that were planned in 2023 that continued in 2024 due to timing of receiving those items. But to date, with those completed projects, they equal $12,458 more than what we had planned in the budget. We did have 2 HVAC systems, 1 mini split, 1 heat pump that failed before its useful life, which is a combination of not 10,300, that's the majority of that. They were planned for a future year, but exhausted early in the heat. Our members' equity balance at the end of June equaled 14.7 million. This is an increase of 2.2 million since January 1st. And I want to make a note on this. This increase of 2.2 mainly represents the construction work in progress that's on our balance sheet for the items in roads and storm drains that will be expensed at the end of the year. Our accounts receivable aging, we have 23 non-assessment accounts with a balance of 60 days past due. 7 of those are with a collection attorney or either in litigation. We have 11 assessment accounts compared to 10 last year that still have a remaining balance. One of those 11 has a closing date of August the 8th. That is an account that had been in probate all of this year. And we just got notification of that closing date for that account. A few updates. It is budget season and we are underway. All of the departments are now preparing their budget work plans for 2025 and updating their operating budgets, capital budgets. After they have completed those, Carl, myself, and Katie will meet individually with each department. And then we will bring the budget liaisons, which are members of the finance committee, into meetings with those department managers and finance staff. And we will talk through those things. As Carl mentioned, the reserve subcommittee is meeting tomorrow. That's our first kickoff meeting of the year, attending a webinar that's talking about building better reserves. And the investment subcommittee met last week, and it was discussed in that meeting after we looked at our cash flow needs for the remainder of this year. We invested 1.5 million of our capital reserves cash into longer term CDs. I've successfully placed 3 of those at this point in 5-year placements with 4.5% interest and 4.3% interest, and looking to the 7 to 10 year range to hopefully continue to take advantage of where we are seeing rates now, because you never know what may happen tomorrow. So that is the financial update. Any questions?
All right, thank you. Aaron with Community Development. The F5 wasn't working.
Yeah.
F5 is not working.
All right, well, good afternoon. I'm happy to present to you the activity of the Community Development Department for June of 2024. It started to look at our number of permits issued by month. This month we were down a little bit from this time last year. We had 109 permits versus 128, which last month we were just about flip-flop that. So the year is really trending right, very closely aligned to where we were this time, or throughout last year in terms of overall permitting. The number of applications reviewed by the ARC, we had 38 versus 35. So again, very similar numbers to 2023. The summary of construction activity, we had 5 more new homes completed. If you recall, last month we had 7. So out of the 16 that have been completed this year, 12 of them were done in the last 2 months. So that's a lot of new homes coming online quickly. We had 1 new groundbreaking for another new home start, leaving us with 21 active sites, 5 major improvements, 71 minor improvements, and that is where we're seeing the lion's share of this permitting activity. 27 dumpster spots on porta-johns and 5 permit extensions. If you all recall,
in the past, we had numbers like 29, 28, 27 for those permit extensions. So we are finally starting to see that there is good progress on projects finishing within their proposed timelines. Just because we have them, I thought that I would share again some more of the new construction sites. I just want to share that these sites are throughout the community and they are varied in architectural style and appearance. So we've got a lot of variety going on, but you know, there's 2 homes in Moon River, 1 in Palmetto, 1 in Marshwood, and 1 in Deer Creek. So the activity is not just focused in one particular neighborhood, although there is a lot of activity in Moon River currently. For the number of private property maintenance violations, this month we had 24 over 14, the same time last year. These are just fluctuating throughout the year. We did finish up some golf course inspections, which precluded a few more violations than what we had expected. But along with that, we did send out a number of courtesy notices as well. So we had 19 courtesy notices last month versus 7 the same time last year. In terms of the overall activity of the department, we had 265 site visits related to ARC cases, 665 proactive PPMS inspections. Those are the ones that are based on our rotating throughout the community to make sure we're putting eyes on every property at least several times a year. 59 follow-ups, which are for active cases. Of the open cases, we had 16 properties in violation resolved with an 88% without formal written notice. Regarding the types of violations we observed, this one is really typical breakdown for this time of year, where the majority of the violations were regarding landscaping. So 53% were landscaping, 26% were home maintenance, 17% were driveways, and then 4% were ARC related. So I'm happy to answer any questions that you all may have.
So, I have a question. So we heard in another meeting that the arborist is more difficult about what we can do. Is that impacted when we have violations? I mean, does he get involved with those?
Not in residential.
Not for residential.
The county arborist, so one place where they do get involved in the new construction is in Moon River, because at the time Moon River was developed, there were different tree standards at the time. So there is a requirement in Moon River that's above and beyond those new home sites.
Moon River has a tree easement in the front, which requires a specimen tree to be planted within your every 100-foot section. So every new house and within their landscape plan has to have a specimen tree planted.
Street tree.
A street tree is kind of.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Tim with security.
All right, so we'll go a security department overview for June.
Go back to,
All right, I'll be happy to report no Part 1 crimes, 1 Bergen theft, 5 vandalisms, and 0 trespassing. Vandalism included 1 egg that was thrown into a mailbox, damaged telescope, community park bathrooms got damaged again. We are looking at, got proposals on Bluetooth locks for that, as well as the facial recognition cameras for the exterior. So trying to mitigate those reoccurring problems over there. Mailbox was struck by a vehicle and a tire was slashed. The suspect is known. Year-to-date stats, again, you know, we had a couple bad months, so our Part 1 crimes are still up at 23, burgs and theft 35, vandalism 7, and trespass 2. Again, to recap on the Part 1 crimes, 8 burgs, 2 of which were forced entry, 11 larceny from autos. Again, only 1 of those were forced entry. 2 golf cart thefts, both recovered within the hour, and 2 thefts from yard or building. Again, the June Guardian Pro statistics, basically 1,186. vehicles were clocked at doing 11 plus miles over the speed limit. That 67 plus 1, we commented on that last month. Individual traveling at 94 miles an hour, and he is currently suspended membership privileges and paid the fine. Pursuant to the board's direction, we started fine for speeding violations as of July 1st. So from July 1st through July 21st, 281 fines have been issued, 243 to residents or guests, 27 to vendors, and 11 to employees. So far, as of 21st, 80 fines were collected and 18 appeals have been filed. So again, we're getting a lot of pushback in reference to the association actually is breaking the law. We're not allowed to fine. So we're educating the violators with our covenants. They give us the authority, gives the board the authority to make reasonable rules and regulations. And part of that being under Section E vehicles, that rule being the speed limit at Landis is 30 miles an hour unless posted otherwise. So that's the rule that they are breaking and not the law. Golf cart statistics, again, for the month. 2 complaints were received, 14 citations were issued, and a total of $100 in fines. Basically, that same statistics, the only difference is out of the 14 golf cart citations issued, 11 of those were for unlicensed drivers. Summer is here and everybody's out there. Warnings and citations, 41 warnings this year versus 43 last year, 10 citations this year versus 17 last year, and our total of fines was $949 versus $1,095. And again, those fines issued are for anything that is not speed related. Any questions?
One question, or maybe just a comment. That radar device has been on Landing's Way north for over a month, and yet you still have people speeding. So, I mean, is it going to stay there forever, or are we going
And on south.
No.
We have one on south, right by
Landing's Way
Blackpool.
South.
It's on Landing's Way South going north. That's what I meant.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we'll be moving around. One thing I wanted to see is, and I talked to Michael, our traffic safety enforcement officer, is let's have it there for a while with the fines in place to see is that actually changing any behavior or not. So that's one thing we kind of wanted to work through. So I don't know when they're going to move it, but I wanted to get some data under our belts with it because it is different than the 6 months of warnings we gave, or courtesy notices we gave versus the actual fines.
So week by week, if it's working, it ought to be going down, right? It looks to
Yes.
me like week by week, it's pretty much staying the same.
Well, and here's some of the things. So people may not get the notice right away. And so we're changing up some of our procedures internally that if you get 2 or 3 notices and you're not responding, Michael's going to personally call you and say, hey, do we not have the right email address? What's going on? We want to make sure you get it. So we're working through some of those back office processes right now too. But yes, the intent would be you're going to start seeing the speeding drop down in the different areas.
Yeah, and obviously, you know, the real data point will be, you know, moving it and then putting back in that same area for the same exact amount of time to see if it had a true impact or not. So, because different areas and different roads in the community obviously are going to warrant different results because it's just the traffic volume and exactly.
Yeah, I'd just like to ask Bob, do you know if the club, I guess you would know, does the club get involved in sort of some communication to club members, all of us here, about the age of kids in the golf cart who are driving? You know, I am at the clubs frequently and I see a lot of carts come in with some very young drivers. And that's your property. I don't know how you know, they may start out on TLA property, but I don't, you know, I think it would be very helpful if the club could, particularly during the summer months, help educate people to who can drive and how fast.
We haven't really discussed that. I guess our fallback is usually it's a association rule. And when they enter and leave the club property, it's, the association's responsibility to enforce it. We don't have anything separate.
Right.
What is the process for people who don't pay? What happens to them if they, you've got so many fines, so many have paid, what happens to those who don't pay?
Right, so as Carl was saying, so we send the email now, and if we haven't received a payment or an appeal within 10 days, then we'll send them a letter saying, okay, this has been assessed, we're gonna give you another 10 days to either pay it or file the appeal. So 21 days into it, if it hasn't been paid or they file an appeal, then we turn it over to finance. Finance, it puts it on their statement, and then eventually that'll be an unpaid fine. And then eventually, if it remains unpaid for a length of time, it can get automatically.
Well, it's not automatically in any way. Depending on the severity of it, how long it is, we could bring them forward to the board for suspension. But yes, as soon as they incur the fine, it is an automatic lien on their property.
After a period of time, would it be reasonable to take away their RFID privileges?
After 60 days, when you're on the non-assessment past due list, then that would trigger.
It would.
Your privileges are suspended and you are receiving interest charges after your 30 days past due. But if you're 60 days past due, that's in our collection policy. This is a non-assessment.
Okay.
Charge, yes.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, Tim. We have some vehicle purchases, Sean, if you'll tell us about those.
All right, everyone turn to page 32 in your packets. Sorry, I'm fighting reading glasses. My arms aren't long enough anymore. You'll see we have a recommendation for purchasing one truck for the Public Works Department and 3 vehicles for the Security Department. Our fleet is made up of a mixture of both Toyota and Ford vehicles. We do have the Ford Fleet Program, which is part of their kind of national program, which gives us better incentives as far as pricing and being able to work with their one of their master mechanics at some of the discounted rates. To qualify for that, we have to maintain either a vehicle purchase of 5 vehicles per year or maintain a fleet of around 15 Ford vehicles. So you'll see in the first section where we had the bid tabulation, really when you're bidding out the Ford, we went out to both J.C. Lewis Ford and O.C. Welch Ford, which are both providers of they have the commercial fleet programs. However, most of that pricing is dictated by corporate, so it will come down. We have compared that pricing against like the Ford X program with some of the old Ford execs that we have that live on the island, and we found that we get a better price going through the fleet program than we have with the old Ford X program. So O.C. Welch typically, unless they have the exact vehicle we're looking for in the lot at a better price, typically we'll just defer to J.C. Lewis. So they did not bid. We also went out because we have a lot of Chevy executives to Baden Chevy to see if they would be competitive. They declined to bid just because they're not able to offer really that same incentive. You'll also see on the Toyotas, we went out to bid with our 2 local Toyota vendors, with Chatham Parkway Toyota and Savannah Toyota. Savannah Toyota was the low bidder. They also had the ability to actually upgrade us in the package higher than what we had proposed with the hybrid variety, which will be better on gas mileage for our security vehicles. And they were right in line with their mid-sized trucks with the Tacoma versus the F-150. So security did choose to go with the Tacoma over the F-150. It's going to be, historically, the security vehicles, we see a much, being a 24/7 operation, they see a lot more miles, and the Toyotas have been a lot more reliable than some of the other vehicles. Ford have been good, but not quite as good as the security vehicles being in the Toyotas. So therefore, we're looking for approval today to purchase one Ford F-250 pickup truck from J.C. Lewis Ford, outfitted for a total price of $44,536, and 3 vehicles, 2 RAV4s and a Tacoma for security, fully outfitted for $99,608.87.
So these purchase requests have been reviewed by Public Works and Finance Committees and approved them. So any questions on these?
We did ask in finance that it be recorded that because of our requirement to have 3 bids, that again, that were people who declined to bid. And there is no alternative, but we feel we need to document that every time.
Okay, so first we're going to approve the purchase of the Ford F-250 from J.C. Lewis Ford in the amount of $44,536.
Second.
Discussion, all ready to vote, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, none, that approved. And the second is the approved purchase of 2 Toyota RAV4s and 1 Toyota Tacoma from Savannah Toyota in the amount of $99,608.87.
So moved.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any discussion there? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Okay, thank you, Sean.
Thank you.
Keep that hand up.
May I ask, is it appropriate to ask a question now of Sean regarding the minutes that were in the package for Public Works, or should I do that at a later date?
Just ask it now.
Okay, now that I've interrupted. This is that Oak Ridge gazebo bridge replacement?
Yes.
Oh, there you are. Can you tell me which one it is?
So,
Is it the one closest to?
Furthest from the tee box. So the first one, they crossed from the tee box to getting back to the fairway is the clubs, and then the
Okay.
association owns the second one.
Okay, just trying to figure that out. Audubon. I didn't realize that we were approved for this recertification.
Yes, so they have approved all of our paperwork. And so they've gone through our strategic plan with the sustainability and the Sustainable Communities Program. Everything is very good. The next step is we bring the Audubon representative on site and do kind of a tour so they can see kind of the hands-on of all the progress and different things we have going on. And so we're in the process of scheduling that. Audubon's gone through a couple staff changes. They've had a little bit of trouble keeping consistent staffing in the sustainabilities program, which they just hired a new staffer that's actually based out of the Hilton Head area, which works out good. So we're in the process of scheduling that. We'll do a site visit. We're going to partner with Skidaway Audubon and try to show kind of a showcase of all the different great programs that are going on. Probably take her out to lunch, do a tour, and then we should be finalized.
Okay,
For
so
another 3 years, as long as the check clears.
that's it. Thank you.
Anybody else? And we'll move on to board committee and special reports, finance committee.
Nothing other than, as Jessica noted, we have appointed the liaisons for each of the departments, and they are going to be working with the departments, which is a really terrific way for us to get a heads up on what they're proposing and on what we might or might not agree with.
So governance.
There was no governance meeting in the month of June or July, rather. I think it was.
Strategic water.
We did have a meeting and we can report that likely in the next skinny, there will be another article done by Rob Birch and Marion and Herman on drinking water and getting people to recognize the importance of conserving water. And a similar article we also expect to be in both the Landings Journal as well as the Twaddle. The Intelligent Controller Task Force is making progress and working with various irrigation and landscape companies to try and educate them about what we're trying to accomplish. And very happily, Lynn has been working hard at putting notices on the outbound lanes for people to try and understand that there is a Georgia prescribed date for watering of Monday, Wednesday, Saturday, Tuesday, Thursday, Sunday, and times for watering. I can't say that driving around, you know, that everybody is doing that, but hopefully they are slowly learning and will start conforming to Georgia law as well as our regulations. And I think our education program, even in this next article, is going to address that. There was a large amount of water used last month that you will see in some of these charts, I think, which was an operational mechanical oversight by Utilities Inc., where first of all, they drained the the water towers for maintenance, but there also was a constantly flowing, if that's the right terminology.
Intermediate is how they placed it. Intermediate running of the wells, which essentially were causing overflow into the system. So the good thing is the bypass works. The bad thing is we lost a lot of water.
And in fairness to UI, they are embarrassed by it, I think, and are undertaking steps to make sure it doesn't happen again, because we don't want to have water used for naught, so.
And that will be reported to Georgia EPD as line loss versus residential use. So they are separating that out.
Good. Great, we'll move on. Director's comments, questions, any questions from directors? Okay, if not, we'll move to my comments and report right on time. That's good. Regarding the main gate and Atlantic gas light, I think what I would like to ask is that the board review what's going to happen when all that is done. What stanchions are going to be removed, what planters are we going to uproot the road or put the curbs back in or those kind of things. If we can do that before we restore, just there's been a lot of comments about the main gate. Just a chance for us to.
Yeah, we're actively working on the restoration. We did the communication with the plan from Moffitt Nickel Engineering for the road striping and RPM to go back. So we have that. We're actually working with the crews right now. Atlanta Gas and Light is 90% done with the install of the lines in the kind of the back section where those were impactful. And so they still have some work doing some connections, like on the little triangle island as you're exiting the gate, and then again on the other side. But we're already working forward with the crews to get them scheduled to come back out and do that conversion. And hopefully we'll do some communications once we have a firm date, but hopefully within the next 2 weeks, we'll be able to start that process.
So the idea is the orange barriers go away, the stanchions go away.
Correct.
The traffic engineers did not like our ideas of the planters because they don't have any give to them.
They don't meet the ASHTO standards for being in the roadway.
Yeah. So
they open up to a little more liability.
Going with more striping and even some flashing lights if needed and more signage.
And you will notice we have a few additional signs up at the main gate now. We've had, I don't know why, but we've had a challenge, and I just saw it today at lunch. I was telling Carl. But people have been going behind the main gate, and then instead of turning left to go back out, they're turning right to go towards Tidewater, so driving against one-way traffic. So you'll see there's a giant, we started with a sign that's just simply wording that says no right turn. And then we found that people still weren't reading that, so you'll see there's a overstated no right turn arrow with a circle and a line through it that's there now. And then today at lunch, I watched a contractor turn in the roundabout lane after you go past that lane. And went back trying to get it up into Tidewater going the wrong way. And almost had a head on essentially right at the back at the four-way where Tidewater and Plains Lake come together. So we do have a do not enter sign there. We're gonna put another one, but I don't know why, but for some reason, I don't know if it's GPS or what they're doing, but for some reason, we're starting to see an increase in people trying to use that as a two-way going back in towards Tidewater. So
my request is that we, as a board, get to see what you plan to do.
Absolutely.
Ahead of that.
Yeah, we have paper and digital we can get you.
Yeah. Okay, the second thing is, even with Bob here, we continue to have our kind of quarterly club association meetings. Next one is about middle of August, so that's a continuing thing we're doing. I want to tell you that, I think you're still open to nominations for the board, or is that closed?
It's closed.
It's closed. And so people who want to now be on the board that come to you, tell them, we want you to apply for a committee.
Yeah, we got 21 applications, and I'll explain later why.
Great, great. So the next thing I want to tell you about is a very close encounter I had with two electric scooters on the golf cart path as they crossed the road as I was entering into my house. So these are young boys, certainly not 16, but probably in the 13 to 14 range. No helmets, no shoes, coming fast along the community path. And one went right in front of the car. Fortunately, I saw him out of the corner of my eye and stopped, so I didn't hit him. But I've asked Carl to kind of develop a electric scooter communication. So the first one just kept on going. The second one stopped. We had some questions as to why you were on the scooter on the path. He said, well, obviously it's approved because my parents bought me the scooter for one. And where's your helmet? Well, don't need one, which is not true because Georgia law requires it. And so it's not our law, it's Georgia law. So we're going to emphasize that. But we have said in our rules that there's electric scooters are not allowed on community paths. And I know that that's being violated a lot of times. I see them at the club, and that's where they go from TLA to club and back and forth, and that's how the kids get around. So fortunately, we didn't have a major accident, just a scary, irritating one.
Right.
So that's my report. Anything else? No?
I have one question, and that is, and probably of Sean, where we are in terms of getting some estimates about the pavilion, the picnic pavilion.
Yes, actually, I talked, I guess it was Friday, to Top Theodore with Wooden Partners. He sent out the two winning SCAD drawings to a builder that's done quite a bit of, actually, they built a lot of pavilion and community park areas in the Hilton Head Bluffton area. And so he's going through and he's comfortable enough to give us a very close estimate of what he would think that it would cost. They're not architectural drawings, so there's a little bit of concern on his end of how tight we're going to try to hold him to a number if they came back and I told him it's, this is for budgetary purposes and we'd go through and develop it further. He's hoping to have something back into this week, early next week. Todd will then review. We'll use Todd as being a land planner more so to look at spacing and see as far as where it could be located, if any of those sites are appropriate, which he's agreed to also. And so we should hopefully have something back here in the near future within the next week and a half.
We'd like to schedule a meeting. People are asking, what's happening? A lot are asking us, what's the next step? We now have a representative of the club who's joined our task force.
Right, exactly.
So we very much want to get this, at least, some idea about when they'll get something.
Yeah, that's what we're waiting. It should be end of this week, early next week. I should have an answer back from a pricing standpoint for both options, for option 1 and 2.
Thank you.
I do have one question. I saw that the marinas tanks are put in, the new tank is there and the other ones are closed up. Have we gone back to insurance and see if we could get any reduction in our rating?
Jessica has reached out to insurance about that.
I'm waiting for soil samples
Mhm.
so that they can mark this as a closed tank on their books. And then we can begin discussions of if that's gonna make any impact on our premiums.
Okay, good. Perfect. Thank you.
Those soil samples were taken today. So they are going off to be analyzed. I will tell you, the gentleman that was doing pulling the samples, he does some field testing. He did not find any traces of the contamination. So he feels very strongly that we should apply.
Thank you.
Okay, I think we're ready to move to executive session, so I need a motion to adjourn. Executive session, moved, second, and all in favor? Aye. So, move to executive session.
Yeah, leave.